is and about the curriculum and teaching learning resources that we have at Pearson to support you with delivering this particular subject. So without further ado, I will hand over to Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you everyone for dialing in. It's great to see so many people who are presumably really enthusiastic about what we think is a really exciting subject. I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully you'll be massively enlightened by this. There'll be the opportunity to ask questions at the end. But if you do want to ask questions as we go along, please do just pop them in the chat. And if we don't answer them there and then, we'll come to them by the end of it. So as Christine said, I'm the senior publisher in the international curriculum team, and I've been working with my colleagues on the development of our new global citizenship programme. And this consists of both qualifications and resources. So in the next kind of 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about the following subjects. We're going to give a quick overview of our iProgress proposition, which is our support for schools from ages 3 to 19. Discuss what global citizenship is and hopefully share some of your ideas as well. Look at the importance of this subject, the themes that we cover, and then talk about the details of the course content and the course provision. And then we'll have a quick look at professional development before going on to questions. As I say, this is going to be an overview. We could talk about this for all day long. So if you do have detailed questions that we can't answer from the questions at the end, I'll be happy to pick that up later via email. So starting with iProgress. iProgress is our complete series of academic qualifications and resources. I incorrectly said 5 to 19. It's 3 to 19 now with the launch of our early years programme as well. And they're for schools who want to follow a UK style curriculum, but not necessarily the UK curriculum itself. The whole proposition is designed to provide a consistent learning journey and progression in each of those subjects, with not just qualifications, but as we say, resources, formative assessment, professional development, and books as well, right from the start all the way through to the end of A-level, and indeed beyond. And we're really excited that this year we're adding a new subject to our iProgress proposition, which is global citizenship itself. As part of it, we're including a fully supportive curriculum that's aiming to create the next generation of global citizens. It's been created with input from experts, including people who helped write the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and a selection of practicing teachers from around the world as well. So just so that I don't have to talk for too long, I'd just like to start by asking everyone, what is global citizenship? It's definitely not a right answer here, but if you could pop in the chat what you see global citizenship as being. And I'd like to share some of those answers as well, if that's okay. So brilliantly, can I ask Lindway to help me actually, because I can't see the chat when I've got my presentation open. And would you be able to share some of the answers, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've got learning how to be an overall good individual in the community, whichever way it may be.
Oh, that's a lovely one, actually. That ties in really nicely with some of the community action projects at GCSE and the project-based learning at primary and secondary as well. Sorry, I would interrupt.
Then global citizenship is the international value.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think we've really tried to make sure this is a properly internationalized course, not just some UK version of citizenship. So, as I say, we have spoken to people across the world and are really interested to get your input on it as well.
Okay, then the other one is expanding our worldview to understand how our actions have an impact on the rest of the world.
These are great. Obviously they would be, but It's great. I mean, it's largely my next slide, so I'll skip on to it quickly. But I have no objection to people doing my job for me here. So as we see global citizenship, and this isn't all there is to it, we see it as an opportunity for students, as you've already said, to develop that awareness of the wider world and their place in it. We want them to engage with issues on local, regional, global levels relating to their own experiences, but also know how to make a positive difference there as well. We want to instill those values and help students know how they can affect others positively as well. So I think broadly, the ideas behind what global citizenship is, it sounds like we're aligned there. But I mean, it's a relatively new subject for a lot of people. So I'd be interested to hear why you believe we should study global citizenship. Because obviously we believe you should, because we've created lovely books, but why are you interested in the subject? I'm sorry, Linda, I'm going to have to ask for your help again. Okay.
No, Tori. Okay, so to collectively find solution to the problems we perhaps share across the globe, then few people have the skills. Few people have the skills to interact with one another. I believe it is important to teach the skills.
Excellent. I think the point about transferable skills and how our actions affect others around the world is central to a lot of what we've tried to create. So if I move on to the next slide, we've tried to build this course and this curriculum specifically to help what Pearson are calling 21st century learners. But as teaching professionals, you already know a lot of these ideas and a lot of these skills are so important for students to develop. And there's been a lot of feedback from higher education institutions and employers, actually, that students globally don't always have these skills to the level that they'd like. So within the course and the length of the global citizenship curriculum, we've tried to build in opportunities to inspire collaboration, fuel discussion, explore, cover thought-provoking topics in a sensitive manner, to explore global issues that really matter to students, to develop their ability to think critically, to encourage them to consider all viewpoints and work with others effectively. And ultimately, that means building transferable skills that are ready for the next learning stage. So we think it's important, as I say, because it does teach those students to take their learning into a real world and apply it, to think about and develop values and what's important to them, and to build that understanding of those world events, as was mentioned in the chat. We believe that the approach we've taken from a very, very earliest age, right from age 5 upwards, helps embed the 21st century skills and promote a growth mindset. That means students aren't put off by difficulties or mistakes, but they learn to examine problems from multiple angles, question their learning, and take lessons into account when they learn in future as well. So I'm quickly going to have a look at the themes of global citizenship. So it's possible to group global citizenship, I think, into any number of different themes with any number of names, and different global citizenship programs will do it differently. At ages 5 to 14, we've built our program around 7 key themes that build upon themselves over the course of learners' education. And each of those themes links to each other and to wider learning. If you look at a subject like power and governance or peace and conflict, that will be studied by a 5-year-old and a 14-year-old. They're obviously at very different levels, and we'd expect the engagement to be different as well. But as I say, the broad themes and those transferable skills are being built in from the very beginning. And all of these themes are explicitly created to lead towards the international GCSE and beyond. And all of the themes link explicitly to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as well. As I mentioned, the authors of our curriculum were part of a team that created those goals and still work actively with the United Nations on promotion of them. And then at ages 14 to 16 for the International GCSE, the themes coalesce. So there's 4 main themes: economic development and environment, politics and governance, culture and community, and technology, as well as 1 practical project, which forms an important part of that qualification, the Community Action Project, where they put their learning and the chance to make a difference into practice within their own local environment. So moving on, we'll have a look at the course provision and the content within each section. So I'll go into more detail, but broadly, we've got our iPrimary Global Citizenship offering for ages 5 to 11, the iLower Secondary offering for 10 to 14, and the International GCSE offering at 14 to 16. Currently, there's no A-level, although we are looking into the possibility of that in the future. Right from the early stage, then, we're looking at building collaboration, communication, research analysis, and reflection skills, so that those core transferable skills are built on right from the very beginning. And again, right from that early stage, from 5, we're looking at that smooth progression towards GCSE and beyond. Within primary and lower secondary especially, we have a learning ladder of a step-by-step curriculum with age-related expectations, providing detailed guidance that you will need to prepare your students at every stage of the learning journey. It's not just a curriculum statement or an examinable statement, it provides examples and detailed guidance as well. We then also provide printed and digital resources to help engage the students, as well as embed those transferable skills that I've already mentioned. The whole course is built around a modular approach, so referred to a flexible approach here, meaning you can choose to offer the full programme or just focus on primary or lower secondary, or indeed international GCSE to suit your school's needs. And then within the primary and lower secondary courses themselves, they're also built around a modular approach. So if you wanted to move units around or skip a unit or spend longer on a unit, there's provision and there's learning support to help you do that. So I've already spoken about transferable skills for iPrimary there for the earliest youngest students. But again, the 7 core topics are the same throughout. iPrimary also includes an annual online teaching subscription, which provides the teacher guide, complete comprehensive planning, testing, and extensive further support as well. And then there's also the opportunity to buy the student workbooks as well. So within the student workbooks, these explicitly support the learning that's happened in class, but also work as a standalone. The workbooks revisit the 7 core topics in greater depth throughout each book to build understanding and introduce age-appropriate projects and discussions. Both the books and the teacher planning that we provide as well are very detailed when it comes to addressing difficult topics and topics that can be tricky to bring up with students, especially those students who may have experienced some of the themes that will be found in the books. The lower secondary programme then builds further on this and continues to develop transferable core skills and revisit the core topics in greater depth. This again provides part of a really consistent learning journey from primary all the way through to international GCSE. And again, it's supported by standard Pearson services like teacher training, professional development, ongoing assessment, and a wealth of resources. The activities at lower secondary are at a higher level, and we expect students to look in things at more depth, but we're really confident that through their work in primary and through the extensive support provided, students will actually have had enough support to get to the point where they can confidently discuss potentially difficult topics in a safe environment. And I did mention the teacher support and student support that's available. And I've just got it here in a little bit more detail. So we do have the complete year-by-year curricula and learning objectives forming that learning progression. From that curriculum, you could create your entirely your own topics or your own learning, and you could match it to other resources if you wanted as well. We provide complete schemes of work, and these schemes of work provide a top-level overview for teachers to create their own planning from, or for senior leadership to see what's being taught within the school. But then, if you needed more support, and we realise this is a relatively new subject, and there's varying levels of confidence, and there are some difficult topics in there as well, we provide complete topic-based lesson planning as well. What that looks like is really comprehensive day-to-day planning around the activities, the questions, what to say, what kind of answers to expect from students within class. We then have further complementary resources like for workbooks, which schools can choose to purchase to support the learning. We have really comprehensive progress tests as well, so you can get a real handle on where your students are. These are designed to be used formatively and inform future teaching, and then there's a summative assessment opportunity at the end of each year as well. We have professional development training, so for those schools that are used to iPrimary and iLower Secondary, this is the same high quality bespoke training that we produce every year, with specific modules about global citizenship and what being a good global citizenship looks like as well. We then throughout the year have further ongoing webinar support. Looking at the iLower Secondary student workbooks, if you've seen the primary, they'll look familiar in their layout and their presentation. The idea being that students who are already familiar with year 1 to 6 won't have to spend a lot of time getting up to speed with the layout and the aim of these books. However, obviously the questioning, the depth of discussion, and the chance to deepen the learning is greater at this age as well. And then moving on to international GCSE content. So students students can choose to take the Pearson edXL International GCSE and Global Citizenship. Those students who have followed the iPrimary and iLower Secondary curriculum will be really well prepared for this because all of the learning within those age groups is designed to reach this point. But equally, students could take this afresh. It's designed to be able to be picked up by anybody, anybody interested in the subject, and it gives them a chance to understand key changes affecting societies around the world, enable them to have that global outlook and understand diverse points of view. And I mentioned earlier as well the opportunity to take on a community action project. So we feel that with a subject like global citizenship, it's really important that students see how the learning, the lessons, how these apply both in their immediate environment and in the wider world as well. So that community action project is actually a key part of the specification as well. And then to support students as well, we have produced a student book and a teacher resource pack as well. And the content within this will be familiar to anybody, the layout will be familiar to anybody who knows our international GCSE books. But the content is specifically mapped to the international GCSE specification and provides comprehensive coverage and has been endorsed by the examining body as well. This has been specifically developed for international learners. And again, because this is potentially a sensitive topic and a new topic, we've made sure to have a much wider review pool and a series of authors to help with rewrites and further work on it as well to ensure that it's appropriate for countries around the world. And unusually as well, the briefly mentioned the teacher resource pack there as well. So as part of the iProgress proposition, we've ensured that for international GCSE, this teacher resource pack has fully comprehensive lesson planning to the same level as you'd expect from a primary or a lower secondary course as well as the standard support around exam prep and sample answers. So looking at the international GCSE student book, as I mentioned, if you're familiar with the international GCSE books, they'll look familiar, but there are a few extra features. These tend to be around some of the examining points, such as the action links to the community action project. And then we've actually also, again, because it's a slightly differently assessed specification, provided a whole section specifically around how to assess global citizenship and some of the things to look for within this subject. So we really feel that between the primary, the lower secondary and the international GCSE, we've provided a really consistent learning journey throughout. As mentioned, it gives you that flexibility where you can choose one level, 2 levels, or all 3. And then within the subjects at primary and lower secondary, there's also the opportunity to look in more depth or less depth at individual topics depending on your school's needs. And then last but not least, we've got professional development as well. So we're really proud of our professional development programme. Particularly at primary and lower secondary level, we've included comprehensive and practical professional development sessions as part of iPrime and iLower secondary subscriptions. And that programme at this point has trained, I believe, certainly over 6,000 teachers worldwide. It's also available as separate standalone training for non-IPLS schools, because again, we know this is a potentially new or tricky subject. And it's been written by both subject experts and practicing teachers and modified according to local needs. And we've actually delivered some training on global citizenship now in some test schools, and that's been really well received as well. And at international GCSE, we have qualification focused training available, which is primarily around how to teach to the specification and how to deliver it. But unusually for our GCSE courses, we actually do have pedagogical and teaching focused training available for this specific subject as well. So we want to really try and provide that consistent package from primary all the way through to the end of GCSE. And if you are interested in any of the professional development or any of the subscriptions, please do talk to your local Pearson representative. I'm sure they'll know all of the answers, and even if they don't, they'll know exactly who to talk to get them. So there'll be an opportunity to ask questions in a minute, but I presume the slides will be shared, so I provided a link here as well that you can follow to find more information about the Global Citizenship Programme, including free samples. Everyone likes a free sample. More information on each level, the pricing and components as well. But now I'd just like to open up the virtual floor and give you opportunity for questions. Thank you.
Kevin, quite a few people have asked for the slides, so I'm glad to hear that you have confirmed that those will be available to share. So for all of those who have asked that question, we can confirm that we will share those after the session.
Yes, there's no problem with sharing them at all. I can send them through afterwards.
Kevin, just one more question on the chat. And the question was, what sort of community projects are recommended? So any ideas on any community projects recommended? Yeah.
So at international GCSE level, I don't want to get it wrong. So I would say the best thing to do for international GCSE is to read the specification, because it does provide quite detailed, as you'd expect from an examining specification, quite detailed guidance on what would be a good community action project. At primary and lower secondary, they're actually quite structured, because we'd expect for quite a lot of these children to be the first time that they do anything like this. So there's things around pollution in the local environment, there's things around correct disposal of technology, around internet safety. I mean, at age 5, this might be something like creating a simple to easy to understand poster, but then at age 14, I think we've got some projects which involve much more active engagement with community leaders around things like, so it could be traffic calming, it could be engagement with pollution in the local environment, in some cases it'd be internet safety, like I say. So there's a lot of more detailed guidance of those age groups, but they are also more flexible as well than the examining specification. Somebody's asked, how do I blend iPrime and global citizenship within the context of Ghana? So I can't pretend to be an expert on the context of Ghana. You'll be much more the expert than I am. What I can say is we've tried to write all of the learning support in such a way as it can be adapted to a local environment. So we haven't given you we haven't said you must do this on X subject or Y subject, because this is a global program. So where there's things like community action projects at primary and lower secondary and at GCSE, they are flexible. At primary and lower secondary, we give you multiple options with lots of guidance. Obviously, there's less guidance at GCSE because part of it is showing you can do it. In the case of some countries, I know, and I'm not sure how true this is for all of the countries in this presentation now, but in the case of some countries, there is like a local citizenship framework. So in those cases, we're happy to work with the local Pearson team to see whether there's any crossover or mapping to local requirements there as well. Professional development. So how can you provide for teachers outside of the UK? So as part of iPrimary and iLower Secondary, which are our big subscription packages to support primary and lower secondary schools, we, before COVID, provided 3 days of face-to-face professional development. Post-COVID, we're going to hope to start doing that again. However, during COVID, we've adapted it successfully to an online model. So we've got experience delivering training to schools around the world via this model in all parts of Africa, all parts of the rest of the world as well. And we've been adapting that over the last 12 months. And my colleague who leads on special professional development has had some really positive feedback on that as well. You're not expected to sit online for 3 straight days. It's adapted to the specific needs of online teaching. How can I get the materials for teaching in Kenya? So I would say talk to your local Pearson representative. They can help you with looking at samples to see if you're still interested, and help you with ordering or looking at the materials as well. Do we anticipate opportunities like students taking gap years? I think that's probably an individual question. So the community action project at GCSE is designed to fit within the normal teaching hours. So it doesn't require a gap year or anything else. To be honest, if a student wanted to turn that into a much bigger project themselves, I think that'd be a lovely thing. But I don't want to start giving life advice.
There's a question on the Q&A box. Can this course in a way provide an opportunity for a student exchange program?
Yes, I would like to think that it could help open students' eyes to what's going on around the world, how they can have that impact at a more global level as well, and understand the experiences that students in different parts of the world are going through as well. So I think it would give you a good basis for that. There's no official exchange program, but I can see this encouraging things like that happening.
So I'm just going to unmute Kanchantla. She's had her hand up for a while.
Okay. Oh, I think they're on mute.
Okay. Okay, I've given her permission to talk. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. Are you able to unmute yourself once I give you permission to talk? Abdiran, oh, I'm not going. Elmi, I've also allowed you to talk. If you can just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. I think every person can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. I in half know the question. The question I've been I'm asking you, it's already, I'll ask you, and then you answer it for me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Great. And then Nene, I've allowed you to talk now. You just need to unmute yourself.
I think you're unmuted, Nene, if you would like to ask your question, please.
Okay, I'll move on to Raina. You may go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Rahina from Ghana, and my question is, how do I localize the subjects that the kids would understand global citizenship from the setting of Ghana, and then get the whole idea that it's for the whole world? Because every country is different, and it becomes difficult when it's an international subject and then you have to localize it. Mind you, the kids have to write an exams at the end of their tenure. Now, how do I localize it for my kids to understand it within the context of Ghana, bearing in mind the international standards as well?
Okay. So I think that's definitely easier at primary and lower secondary, as I said, because we provide fairly explicit guidance around the type of skills and type of knowledge that's required, and the lesson planning is really quite comprehensive. And then when it comes to providing examples, we will give several examples, and then guidance, there's written guidance within the lesson planning around how you can adapt it to your local context or the type of examples you might find locally. There's also a section there around potential resources and things that the teacher could look for in the local environment as well to help localize it. I'm not sure I could answer quickly on this call, but I'm quite confident the lesson planning we've provided would give you the tools to do that. And then hopefully by the time they get to international GCSE, so the Community Action Project provides a lot of guidance again around the type of things that you could do within your environment. But hopefully by that point, going through primary, going through low secondary, and with the guidance of a good teacher as well, we'll be able to look at that broader context because they are a little bit older. So I suppose the quick answer is we hope we can help you because we've provided a lot of guidance and support there that is all adaptable as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Florence, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Good afternoon. Mine is about the textbook for IGCSE. My school started the subject this year, but we have had a lot of challenges accessing the book. The suppliers say they're unable to access the book, so we haven't managed to get the book. And I think most schools in Kenya are facing the same problem. I do not know whether it's possible to order the book directly from Pearson.
Marvin, would you like to answer that?
So I think what we could do is please get in touch with me or my colleague Brenda, and we can support you with that. My assumption is that because again this suit was recently launched, my assumption is that the distributors, which is Textbook Center and Educate Yourself Bookshops, place the bulk order. So this was just recently introduced. So I'm sure by now they should have either received their stock or it's on transit. So just do get in touch with us so I can put our contacts on the chat and you can reach out to me. So I'll put my phone number and email on the chat and then we can support.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, and I think maybe tomorrow when we share the recording, I'll also put the details of our sales teams in the different countries. So the mailer that will come out tomorrow will have all that information, as well as the links that Kevin was sharing today. Okay, moving on to George.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. It's been a wonderful presentation. Thank you for that. My question is about the professional development, which you mentioned is scheduled to be done yearly, right?
Yes. So as part of the iPrimary or lower secondary program, schools are entitled to professional development. If schools choose to take just global citizenship or just for books, then you can choose to have that professional development as well.
Well, I was just wondering if this is a freshly launched program, how about if the trainings should be done more frequently within the year to find areas of improvement? Because I remember you mentioned something like for the international schools, there is room for modification in line with what each country requires regarding that. So how about if we push these trainings to be done frequently within the year so that we're in a position to update and see what's working for every country, perhaps? Thank you.
Okay. So currently the big core professional development happens at the start of the year because we found it fits with most schools' inset days and training patterns. But what we do have throughout the year are webinars where we get subject experts and teaching pedagogical experts as well to deliver or engage with an audience on a specific subject. So with Global Citizenship being a new program, and with schools wanting more support with it, we're expecting to have at least a couple of those webinars to be on global citizenship over the next year. So I don't think that's the full professional development you might be looking for throughout the year, but it should help provide some support.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's a question in the chat about textbooks, workbooks. So just to reiterate, so at International GCSE, there's a print textbook, which is available in digital format as well. And there's also digitally available teacher guides and lesson planning. At primary and lower secondary, there's a write-in workbook, 1 per year, which is a mixture of instructional and questioning content. So there's quite a lot of instructional content in there as well. And then the teacher support, the lesson planning, the tests are all digitally delivered.
And then, Kevin, there's a question about how long it will take to have the A-level subjects introduced.
Okay. For obvious reasons, I don't start giving guarantees about examinations, but we obviously are placing a lot of importance on the subject at primary and lower secondary at GCSE. If there's sufficient interest and sufficient schools are interested in there being an A-level, and most importantly tell us that they are as well, then it's something we will look into producing. But I can't provide any guarantees about examinations in the future.
Thank you. There's another question about.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a question about. I think it should be asked by Joshua. So maybe Joshua, you can ask a question now, or just going to read it on the chat.
Thank you, Mr. Witty.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Witty. I'm Joshua Bitange from Kenya. We have actually been introduced to global citizenship, and it has actually been quite a challenge in terms of getting some specified materials regarding. So we're actually being forced to rely too much on the internet in order to be able to get based on the specification the way it has actually been written. So though I'm actually repeating, how can we actually be able to get the contact of the regional pearson contact for easier coordination on how we can actually be able to get the materials, and what have you?
Yes, Joshua, I've just put my contacts on the chat for specifically to Kenya, so we can chat after the call. So you should be able to guide you further after this.
Oh, so basically, I'm actually going to get your contact on the wall.
Yeah, I've already put it on the chat. You'd see it.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Witt.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, then Evelyn, I think you can go ahead and.
Hi, everyone. I do have a question. Well, it's about we here in Lesotho. There's the subject, it's called PSS. It already talks about the world entirely. So would it be possible that we infuse it in a new curriculum, which is global perspectives, not really taking it inside, but using some of its strong points so that it enhances our learners even more, help them to understand more about global perspective, global citizenship? Is that possible?
If we're looking at global citizenship, our new program, we have designed it specifically so it can be adapted, taught alongside, or mixed in with any local moral ethics curriculums as well. So that should be possible. If we're talking about global perspectives, the Cambridge course, then I can't give you a reliable answer, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you, but I think it will be possible, but thank you for the insight.
Okay, great. Lebo?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Right, thank you very much. My question is more or less like Evelyn's question, because I just wanted to know if there's any difference or similarity between global perspectives and global citizenship. Thank you.
Good question. Yes. So, there's a difference in terms of ethos and aim. So our global citizenship is more closely aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 points, which the United Nations worked with a team of experts globally to say these are the things that ideally citizens, students, countries should be focusing on to help provide a better world for us all. And because we've worked with the authors of those goals, we're much more closely aligned to it. In terms of support, so we have far more extensive support actually. And although, you'd expect me to say that because I work for Pearson, we genuinely do. Our support provides a lot more detail and is a lot more adaptable as well. Global Perspectives is still an admirable course and works very well, but it does, even at the younger ages, place a lot of onus on students to find what can be quite hard to find resources. So where the point of something might be to look at how to make a difference in a particular area of the world, they'll expect you to find all resources to do that, whereas we provide that so you can focus on the core skills and core knowledge. The other thing to say is our curriculum not only matches very well to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which I keep talking about, it also provides very explicit preparation for international GCSE later, and very explicit building in of those 21st century skills. Now, I'm sure, again, Global Perspectives could, but because it's an older course and there wasn't such an emphasis on these skills at the time it was created, that isn't so explicitly built in. So students and teachers aren't quite as aware of the skills they're working on and the skills they're developing and the end point as well. So, I mean, you'd expect me to say ours is better, but I genuinely believe it is.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nene, do you want to give it a try? Okay, I think we're having an issue there. Then Nkakana. Okay, that's Mohale.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you so much. here in Lesotho, okay, in fact, we are new into this Globa Citizenship course. I'm a little worried about the concerns of our participants here about resources and everything. Just to put you on board, do you promise that there are readily available digital resources when we start next year, so that we are really sure about what we're going to do? For those who take digital resources, are there any challenges, or these challenges that I hear of when I'm listening to this is about hard copies whatsoever?
Okay, so for the digital resources for the teacher guides, we do expect this to be accessed in quite a variety of settings and quite a variety of countries around the world. So we've made sure that anything there that is absolutely required to deliver a lesson or any lesson planning is downloadable. So although you do need an internet connection in the first place, you don't need one during the lessons. You're not going to be left high and dry in the middle of a lesson trying to deliver something. So it's all downloadable in advance. And then of course there are other print books as well. And they're available digitally if you have issues with print books getting to you, but equally they're available in print if you have issues with internet connectivity. So I'm hopeful. I mean, you can never say definitely, but I'm hopeful that we've should be able to support as many different settings and as many different schools as possible.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I've got Florence. I'm not sure if it's the hand from the first time you spoke. Would you like to go ahead, or your question has been answered? You need to unmute yourself.
Most of the questions have been answered. Apart from the issue of the sample book, there's a sample textbook for IGCSE. I do not know whether it contains all the topics that would find in the hard copy.
No, the sample will contain, so it should contain the contents page, so you can see an overview of everything that will be in there. And then it will generally contain a chapter or a section from within it, just to give you a taster of what it would be like.
Thank you.
Hi, Kevin. Just an observation.
Sorry, go ahead, Marvin.
Just an observation from the chart that most candidates are wondering why they would do very well at O level, but then they can't have the same subject at A level. So I think it's more of a feedback. So yeah.
No, that's really useful because although my main focus is resources, we work closely with the qualifications team. So in fact, we're meeting tomorrow. So I can definitely feed that back and that we can look into that being part of a future development.
All right. Gabriel?
Yes, there are a few questions. How will it afford schools the opportunity to collaborate with other schools globally?
I'm sorry, Gabriel, you cut out a little there.
All right. How will it afford schools the opportunity to collaborate with other schools globally? Did you get it?
Your sound isn't clear, Gabriel. I wonder if maybe you could just pop your question in the chat. Kevin.
There's actually a question in the chat.
Okay, I'm going to open up for Evelyn, and then I'll look at the questions in the chat and we can answer. So Evelyn, you can unmute yourself.
I'm sorry about that. Seems like there is a problem on my side, but my question is here. The workbooks for learners. Here at my school, there is internet, and there's a tendency for students to download everything for themselves. So do we really have to do the printouts for them, or can they just download the ebooks according to this curriculum? Won't we be making a mistake? Or do you allow us to continue as we have been doing, as parents and learners download books for themselves, and then learning and teaching, it just goes smoothly as it was?
So the books are available, the workbooks are available as a school subscription, and you can allocate them to individual students. They're not downloadable though, they're only viewable online on the platform, which isn't always ideal for workbooks, we acknowledge, but I think that's reflected in the price as well. They aren't downloadable though.
Okay, thank you.
Right, there was a request on the chat, Kevin, from Rahina about if it's possible to systematically table the topics for global citizenship. I think they missed the first 15 minutes of the meeting.
Yes, so within the slide deck, which is being shared after this, both the topics for themes for primary and lower secondary and for international GCSE are listed. So there's 7 key themes at primary and lower secondary and 4 key themes at international GCSE. And within the slide deck as well, we link out to the specification where it goes into more detail. And I think we also link to an example scheme of work, which has the headings of all of these topics for primary and lower secondary as well. So you will have that information.
Right. Okay, I'm just going to do a run through of some of the questions that we might have missed. So the question that Gabriel is asking, how will it afford schools the opportunity to collaborate with other schools globally?
So there's no systematic program to do this at the moment, but there is a international curriculum or global schools community, which primary and lower secondary schools particularly have signed up to, where there's the opportunity to share learning, share examples, and talk to like-minded teachers and schools. There then is also certainly within the primary and lower secondary material, there's suggestions for how you can reach out to other schools around the world. And there's also some pointers to some websites where schools are actually looking for this kind of opportunity globally as well.
Okay. And then, so how do we prepare for the marking of the exams?
Okay, so looking specifically at international GCSE, which is the higher stakes level, the qualifications website itself obviously has the specification, which tells you exactly what's going to be examined. It then also has the sample assessment material and some teacher guidance as well, which should help. Then within the published resources at all levels, so at GCSE, there's explicit practice exam questions written in the same style as the actual exam, model answers, commentary on the answers as well. They're fairly comprehensive. And then at primary and lower secondary, we have progress tests, which I mentioned before. So these are actually every single half term, and we update them every year as well. And then at the end of each year, there's a longer summative test as well, which gives students preparation for later, more formal, externally marked testing. So there should be quite a lot of support there, which can hopefully help you, help students prepare for what could be a potentially tricky subject to examine in, because there's so many different answers.
Okay, so the last question for the day, Kevin, what kind of skills or specialists should a global citizen teacher have?
Wow. I think, to be honest, most good teachers could potentially teach this subject. I'm sure some subject experts would have a fit at me saying that, but I think the important thing is that you're also willing to learn. Because over the last 18 months, 2 years of us developing this, I feel like I've learned quite a lot about quite a lot of new things as well. And there's some absolutely fascinating topics out there. So I think they need to be open to learning, as open as the students, if not more so, and be willing to be surprised as well.
Great, thank you. Christine, a word from you?
Just thank you very much to Kevin for talking us through the session today and for addressing so many of the questions that have come up. I hope that everyone has found this incredibly helpful. I see some positive feedback coming through on the chat. So we're really pleased that you've got value out of today. We think this is a really exciting and relevant subject, increasingly so. We know young people are very engaged in global issues. In Africa, we want to encourage our students to be thinking about challenges in our communities, being innovative about solutions to those challenges. And I think the subject is incredibly relevant from that perspective as well. So thanks to everyone for joining us. We ended up with 123 attendees, which is really fantastic. Obviously, a lot of interest in global citizenship as a subject. So we look forward to supporting you all in introducing this subject in your schools going forwards. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll all see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.